We often hear about paradise or Jannah in Islamic tradition, but have you ever wondered if there's a literal roadmap to get there? Well, in a way, there is. Today, we're diving into a guide that's based on the book Acts That Guarantee Paradise, which pulls together teachings from the Prophet Muhammad to lay out that very path.
And that brings us to this really fundamental question, one that people of faith have been asking forever. What actions, what specific things can we do in this life that can lead to the ultimate reward in the next? That's the big question we're going to try and unpack today.
So, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the absolute bedrock, the foundation of faith. Then we'll look at the pillars of worship that give it structure. After that, we'll get into the core of character, where that belief really turns into action. And finally, we'll talk about the small, everyday acts of goodness that are open to absolutely everyone.
Okay, so where does a journey like this even begin? Well, it starts with the foundation of faith. The whole idea here is that before any action can even count, it all has to start with what you truly believe in your heart and mind. This is the bedrock that everything else is built on.
And right at the very heart of that foundation is the Shahada, the testimony of faith. It's a really simple declaration, but it's also incredibly profound. It's not just a set of words you say, it's seen as the actual doorway into the faith, and it's the lens that gives meaning to everything else you do.
And this teaching, this hadith, highlights an incredible promise. What it's implying is that sincerely believing this, really holding this core belief, is so powerful that it can actually reframe everything else a person has done. It becomes the key that unlocks the door to paradise. So the crucial thing, you see, isn't just saying the words, but the deep sincerity behind them.
All right, so once that foundation of faith is solid, how do you express it? That's where the pillars of worship come in. If faith is the bedrock, then you could think of these as the actual structures you build on it, the consistent, direct lines of communication with God that give shape to a Muslim spiritual life.
What's so interesting here is the rhythm of it all. You've got the daily discipline of prayer, 5 times a day. Then there's the annual month-long practice of fasting, which is all about self-control and empathy. You have communal acts that leave a legacy, like building a mosque. Then there's that profound, maybe once-in-a-lifetime journey of Hajj, and of course the constant connection through reciting the Quran. Each one strengthens that divine connection in a different way.
But here's the thing, faith and worship, they aren't meant to just exist in a bubble. And this brings us to a really crucial part, the core of character. This is all about how that internal belief and all that private worship has to translate into how you deal with the world and every single person in it.
And a really powerful theme starts to emerge from these teachings, that a person's true faith is actually measured by how they treat people who are in need, the people who have less power. Social responsibility isn't some kind of optional extra. It's presented as a direct reflection of your sincerity. And this one, wow, it's such a powerful image. The Prophet literally held his index and middle fingers right next to each other to show this incredibly close, almost inseparable bond. With just that one gesture, he elevated caring for an orphan to one of the highest possible acts, promising a unique closeness to him in paradise.
And get this, that circle of compassion doesn't just stop with people. The tradition makes it super clear that a believer's responsibility for kindness extends to all living things. And yep, that includes animals.
Just take a second to picture what's happening in this story. This wasn't some grand public donation. It wasn't a big show of piety. It was a small, hidden moment of pure compassion for a suffering animal. And for that one little thing, giving a thirsty dog some water from his shoe, this man was granted the ultimate reward. It just goes to show that no act of mercy is ever, ever too small.
Our character is also shaped big time by the words we use. In this teaching here, it presents a very clear fork in the road. Honesty isn't just a nice policy, it's a literal path that leads you towards righteousness, and from there to paradise. Lying, on the other hand, well, it takes you down a completely different road. The point is, our words actually help build our destiny.
And that brings us to our final section, which honestly might be the most empowering one of all, everyday acts of goodness. This is where the path to paradise becomes something that's accessible to every single one of us, every single day, in the smallest little moments of our lives.
I mean, just look at this list for a second. Moving a branch off the road so someone doesn't trip. Popping in to visit a neighbor who's sick. Just having good manners. Offering a simple greeting of peace. Sharing your food. Or even that tough internal battle of just controlling your anger. These aren't huge, heroic acts. They're the small, consistent things that help make the world a better place. And every single one is promised a massive reward.
So when you put it all together, what you see is that the roadmap to paradise isn't about finding one single secret trick. It's actually this beautifully balanced system. It all starts with sincere faith in your heart, which then gets channeled through acts of worship, and then finally, it blossoms into a good character that makes a real positive impact on the world around you.
And that leaves us with one final thing to think about. In a world that feels so big and overwhelming, full of these massive, complicated problems, what does it really mean that the path to an eternal reward can be paved with something as simple as giving water to a thirsty dog or moving a rock out of someone's way? What is the true power of just one single good deed?